Thank you for raising my wife, but you are not her real father. This is your neighbor." There was a deathly silence in the hall. I laughed. I thought he was joking. And then he took out a photo. The old one. Yellowed. It shows my wife in the arms of a neighbor. The guest didn't know where to look. My wife lowered her eyes. I just got up and left. But not because I gave up. I left to come back with cold, precise revenge. Millions of people watch this video today, but no one knows how it ended. It was the day I had waited for. My daughter's wedding, the day when I would proudly walk Elena down the aisle, seeing her dressed in white, glowing with happiness. I had imagined it for years, and in my mind, everything was going to be perfect. A father's dream come true. The ceremony had been beautiful. The vows exchanged under a canopy of white roses, the guests wiping away their tears as Elena and Daniel pledged their love to each other. The reception was no different. Charming, lively, and filled with laughter. There were speeches, toasts, and jokes. Everyone looked so happy, but in the back of my mind, a small part of me wondered if my life would truly stay the same after today. I couldn't help but feel the weight of the transition, my little girl becoming a woman, and me losing the role of her first protector. But nothing could prepare me for the toast that changed everything. It started like any other. Daniel, Elena's new husband, stood to speak, his voice steady, full of the kind of affection that comes from someone in love. I could tell he was the kind of man who would treat Elena well. I watched him with pride. He was everything I could have hoped for. The crowd quieted, all eyes on Daniel as he raised his glass in a classic wedding gesture. I was touched by his words of gratitude for the day, the ceremony, and our family's role in it all. He thanked the guests for coming, praising his new bride's beauty, her kindness, and the loving family she came from. "Mr. Harrison," he said, looking at me, "I have to thank you especially. You raised such an incredible woman. Elena has been my rock, and I can only hope to be half the man she believes me to be. Thank you for everything you've done, for her, for me, for the life we'll share together." I could feel the lump in my throat as I stood, shaking his hand. I was proud. Proud of my daughter, proud of the man who was now her husband, and proud of the family we had become. Then Daniel's smile faded just slightly, and the tone of his voice shifted. "But," he said, his eyes scanning the room, "I think there's someone else we should all be thanking today." At first, I didn't think anything of it. It was just a typical build-up to a heartfelt thank you. Maybe he was going to praise one of the other family members. But then he dropped the bombshell. "Your neighbor, Mr. Bennett," Daniel continued, his words measured but somehow cutting through the air like a knife. "He's the real father of the bride." A confused chuckle escaped my lips. I glanced around at the guests, waiting for the punchline. Surely this was a joke, right? Daniel must have been making a playful reference to someone from our past. Maybe a family friend, maybe even an inside joke between the two of us. But when Daniel didn't laugh, when he held the gaze of the room, something shifted in the air. My stomach churned, and I looked at Linda, my wife, who sat beside me. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her cheeks flushed a deep shade of red, her hands clenched around her wine glass, her knuckles white. "I mean it," Daniel said, his voice now more serious. "Mr. Bennett was Elena's real father." The laughter in the room started to die down as the guests began to exchange confused glances. I felt a chill run down my spine. The smile I had been wearing, this proud, confident father's smile, began to waver. It felt as though the floor beneath me was crumbling, and I could do nothing to stop it. And then Daniel did something I will never forget. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a photo. It wasn't a blurry snapshot. It wasn't some obscure image from years ago. No, this was a clear, detailed photograph of a younger man, standing next to my wife, Linda, in what looked like a casual snapshot at a picnic or some family gathering. The two of them were close, much too close for comfort. In the picture, they were smiling together. And in her eyes, the way she looked at him, it was intimate. The room was silent, the air suffocating. My heart was beating louder in my chest than the buzzing in my ears. Linda's face went from crimson to a sickly pale as she stared at the photo. I could feel her tension, her embarrassment, but I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My mind was scrambling, trying to make sense of what was happening, what was being said. Elena, sitting beside Daniel, stared at the photo as well, her face a mixture of confusion and shock. Daniel, what is this? I heard myself ask. The words came out hoarse, unrecognizable even to me. My heart was pounding in my ears, my breath shallow. The rest of the room was murmuring, their voices rising in shock, but I couldn't focus on them. My gaze was fixed on my wife, whose face was buried in her hands. She was hiding her face from the room, from me, from everyone. I knew it was true. I could see it in her eyes. I could feel it in the way she avoided my gaze. Mr. Harrison, Daniel said, his tone more somber now. I thought you should know the truth. I didn't want to start my marriage on a lie, and I know Elena deserves to know who she really is. And then, as if that wasn't enough, he added one more sentence, one that I would never be able to forget. Mr. Bennett is Elena's father, and the secret has been buried all these years. The world seemed to stop. The wedding I had envisioned as a perfect day had suddenly become a nightmare. I felt my blood boil, my body tense with rage. How long had Linda been hiding this from me? How long had she been lying to me? Before I knew it, I stood up. I don't even remember how I got to my feet. My legs were stiff, my mind racing. I need some air, I muttered. I turned, walking out of the reception hall, the eyes of the guests boring into my back. The moment the door closed behind me, I felt a cold, overwhelming wave of betrayal. I was no longer the proud father walking his daughter down the aisle. No, I had been replaced. I was nothing but a fool. But this wouldn't be the end. Not by a long shot. I wasn't ready to let it go. Not yet. I sat in my car outside the venue, still in my suit, still holding the envelope I was supposed to give Elena after the wedding. A small gift. Just a check, really. Tucked inside a card with the words, "To my beloved daughter on the start of your forever." The words felt bitter now. Fake. I held that envelope like it was a piece of someone else's life. Someone who hadn't just been made a laughingstock in front of 200 people. Someone who hadn't just learned, during a wedding toast, that he wasn't even the father of the bride. My hand trembled slightly as I set the envelope on the passenger seat and leaned my head back against the headrest. Through the windshield, I could still see guests milling around inside the reception hall, confused and restless. Some stared toward the door I'd walked out of, whispering. Others tried to pretend like the air hadn't turned heavy with scandal. The worst part? No one had followed me out. Not Elena, not Linda, not even Daniel. I was disposable, and suddenly it felt like maybe I had been for years. 15 minutes passed, maybe more. Then the door opened and closed again. I didn't need to look up to know it was her. Linda. She approached slowly, like someone stepping into a minefield, unsure where the next explosion might come from. I didn't turn to look at her. I didn't speak. Not yet. I didn't know he was going to say that, she said quietly. Her voice was shaking, and I could hear the effort she was making to sound composed. He blindsided me too. I scoffed. Really? Because your face didn't look shocked. It looked guilty. She swallowed hard. I thought it was over. I thought the past was done. I turned then, slowly, finally facing her. So it's true. She didn't answer, just nodded. A small, pitiful nod, like that would be enough. How long, Linda? I asked. My voice came out low and calm, but under the surface I could feel myself cracking. How long were you with him? Did it start before Elena was born? Was I just a placeholder? She flinched. It was one mistake. One? I snapped. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. You kept this from me for 26 years. Silence. I thought it was over, she repeated. It was before we were even serious. I didn't know I was pregnant until you and I raised my hand. Don't try to soften it. You chose to lie. Every birthday party, every bedtime story, every school recital. I stood there thinking I was her father, and you let me. I didn't think it mattered, she whispered. That did it, I laughed, bitter, hollow. Didn't matter? To who, Linda? To you? To him? She looked away, her eyes glossed with tears. He didn't know either. I never told him. Until now, I said. But someone did. Somehow your little secret got out, and now the whole damn wedding knows it. She didn't reply. I watched her closely. You didn't look surprised, Linda. You looked terrified. So don't lie to me again. Who told him? She hesitated. Too long. Daniel found a DNA kit in our house, she said finally. A few months ago, Elena did one as a joke. One of those online ancestry things. He compared it with his own results and something didn't line up. He started asking questions. And instead of coming clean to me, I cut in. I panicked, she admitted. I begged Elena not to say anything. I thought it would go away. I let that sink in. So our daughter knew too. Linda didn't answer. She didn't have to. I turned the key in the ignition and stared straight ahead. I wasn't driving anywhere yet, but I needed to feel like I was leaving. I need space, I said. I need to think. Linda stepped back. Where will you go? Home, I said. But you won't be there. Her face twisted in pain, but I didn't care. Not anymore. I'll send someone for your things, and Linda... I finally looked her in the eye again. You didn't just lie to me. You stole something from me. A life, a bond, a truth I never even got the chance to have. Then I drove away, leaving behind the woman I had once loved and the daughter I had thought was mine. But that was just the beginning, because if they thought I was going to vanish quietly, they didn't know me at all. They humiliated me in public, and I was going to return the favor. It's strange how your home changes when the truth shatters inside it. The same walls, the same furniture, the same photos on the mantle, yet nothing feels real anymore. I stood in the living room, staring at a picture of Elena as a little girl on my shoulders, giggling during a beach trip. I remembered that day. I remembered how she called me the strongest dad in the world. And now? Now I wasn't even a dad. Not to her. I picked up the frame and held it in my hand. I didn't cry. I thought I might. But I'd spent too many years holding back emotion for the sake of this family. For her. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to act. I spent the next 2 days in silence. No calls, no messages. Not from Linda, not from Elena, and not from Daniel either. The silence was louder than any apology they could have tried to offer. But then the wedding video hit the internet. It was a blurry vertical clip, recorded by some teenage cousin or overly enthusiastic guest. The caption read, "Groom drops bombshell in wedding speech. You won't believe what he said." And just like that, the views exploded. I watched it once, only once. That was enough. There he was, Daniel, nervous, holding his champagne glass, smiling at first. "I just want to thank everyone for being here today," he said. "And I especially want to thank the man who raised the woman I love. Sir, thank you for being a part of her life." My recorded self nodded, oblivious, even smiling a little. But I also want to thank someone else. The man who, as it turns out, is actually my wife's real father. There was that moment, that pause, confused laughter, a couple of gasps. Then Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out the photo. "This photo was taken 27 years ago. That's my father. And that," he pointed, "that's Linda, Elena's mother, a few months before Elena was born." Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a glass, and the camera caught it all. The camera caught me too, my smile freezing, my shoulders stiffening, the glass slipping from my hand. "We ran a DNA test," Daniel said calmly. "I didn't plan to say anything, but I realized something standing up here. Secrets don't build families. Truth does." And then the video ended. No context, no aftermath, just those 45 seconds of total, public destruction. The video went viral in under 48 hours. I had colleagues texting me, neighbors. Even my boss forwarded the clip to me with a vague, "Hope you're okay." Wow, man. By the end of the week, the view count had passed 6 million. 6 million. I wasn't just humiliated, I was a meme. Elena called on the 4th day. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice cracked and small, like when she was 6 and broke a vase. "Dad, I didn't know Daniel would do that. I swear I didn't. Please call me. I need to talk to you. I'm sorry. I saved the message, not because I wanted to hear it again, but because I wanted to remember that even now, she still called me Dad. That night, I sat down at my laptop and opened a blank document. The title, Amendment to Last Will and Testament. I wasn't going to leave them anything, not Linda, not Elena. I had worked for 40 years to build my name, my business, my legacy. They took my dignity in 45 seconds. But this wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice, real justice, not just wills and inheritance. This was going to be public. I was going to show the world the other side of the story, and the world was going to eat it up, just like they did that damn toast. There's a difference between being humiliated and being broken. That night, sitting in my dimly lit office, I realized I wasn't broken. Not even close. I was angry, cold, focused, and I was going to tell my side. I reached out to a friend of mine, Riley. She used to work in PR. Now she ran a mid-sized media consulting firm. Smart, sharp, and always a little too curious about people's dirty laundry. When I told her I had a story to share, she didn't hesitate. Your wedding clip is already trending, she said. If you want to respond, do it now, while the world still cares. I don't just want to respond, I told her. I want to control the narrative. Silence on the other end, then a slow smile in her voice. Now you're talking. Riley helped me craft a plan, not just a press release or a tweet. No, we went big. A full video, professionally shot, clean, calm, honest, just me. Sitting in my living room in front of the fireplace where Elena used to hang her Christmas stockings. We called it The Father of the Bride, My Side. We recorded over 2 days, me speaking, pausing, rephrasing when my voice cracked, but never lying. I told it all. How I met Linda, how we struggled to have a child, how Elena's birth saved our marriage, or so I thought. How I raised her as my own without a single doubt in my heart. How I loved her more than anything in this world. And then, how it all unraveled in 45 seconds. We didn't make it a sob story. We made it real. Raw. By the time the video ended, I looked straight into the camera. To the man in the photo, I said, you may have shared DNA, but you didn't carry her in your arms at 3 a.m. You didn't teach her to ride a bike. You didn't sit up sick with her through chickenpox. I did. So while biology might say one thing, I was her father. And to the world that watched me get torn down in a viral toast, now you know what you didn't see. We uploaded it quietly. No clickbait, no drama. Just a title, a thumbnail, and my face. It took 3 hours to blow up, 24 hours to hit the trending page. By day 2, I had news outlets reaching out, talk shows requesting interviews, strangers sending messages of support. Real father or not, you're a better man than most. I cried watching your story. You didn't deserve that. But the message that made my breath hitch, it came from a woman I hadn't heard from in years, my own sister. She wrote, you raised her better than she turned out to be. I'm sorry, I love you. Elena called again. This time she didn't leave a voicemail. She sent a text. Please, let's talk. Not on camera, just us. I didn't answer, not yet, not until the final piece was in place. The last thing I did that week was call my lawyer. Take her out of the will, I said. Completely. You're sure? He asked. This is pretty permanent. I was sure for 28 years that she was my daughter, I said. Turns out I was wrong then. I'm not wrong now. Linda hadn't contacted me. Of course she hadn't. I wondered if she even knew what to say. What lie could cover up 27 years? What excuse could soften the blow of making a man raise another man's child while keeping him in the dark? But she'd learn. Soon. Because there was one more thing I hadn't told anyone yet. The DNA test, I ordered one too. Not just to confirm Daniel's words, but to see if Elena ever belonged to me. Spoiler, she didn't. Not biologically, not legally, and soon, not financially. The wedding gave them a public stage. Now it was my turn, and I had one last surprise left to give. The envelope with the DNA results had been sitting in my drawer for days. I didn't need to open it, I already knew. But I did. One quiet morning with the blinds drawn and coffee going cold on the table, I sliced it open with the edge of my house key, still labeled Dad's office, a detail that now felt like a bad joke. The paper said exactly what I expected. Probability of paternity, 0%. I exhaled, no tears, no shaking hands, just confirmation. By now, the wedding had become a viral soap opera. My video had reached 9.7 million views. People were debating in comment sections, podcast hosts were breaking it down like a crime scene, and memes with captions like "the real toast was the DNA results" were floating all over the internet. I didn't ask for any of it, but I wasn't hiding from it either. Because when someone burns your house down, the worst thing you can do is sit in the ashes and cry. You rebuild. Or you turn the fire back on them. That opportunity came faster than I thought. A producer from a major morning show reached out to me. She said, "We're doing a follow-up segment on viral wedding moments. The audience loved your story. If you're open to it, we'd love to invite you and your daughter." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I sent a single message to Elena. "They want us both on the show. Your call. If you want to speak, this is the time." She answered in 3 minutes. "I'll be there." We didn't meet before the show. We sat in separate dressing rooms. The producers asked if I wanted to see her beforehand, and I said no. Let the cameras catch the first real reaction. They like raw? Give them raw. The stage was clean, tasteful, faux leather chairs, warm lights. I was introduced first. I walked out to applause. Most of it for the story, not me, but applause nonetheless. Elena came next. She looked thinner. Her hands shook slightly as she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. When she sat down, she didn't meet my eyes. The host smiled brightly. "It's not every day a wedding speech becomes international news," she began. "But this one did. And now we're giving both sides a chance to speak. Mr. Caldwell, tell us, how did you feel that day?" I paused. The silence was deliberate. Then I spoke. It wasn't just humiliation, it was grief. I watched the identity I held for nearly 3 decades unravel in front of 200 guests and 9 million strangers online. The host nodded solemnly, then turned to Elena. "Did you know what your husband was going to say?" Elena's voice was small. "I didn't, I swear." "But you knew about the DNA test?" She hesitated, then nodded. "He showed me the results a week before the wedding. I didn't believe him at first. I thought maybe he was wrong. Maybe it was fake." "Did you ask your mother?" She nodded again. She admitted it after I pressed her. Now the host turned back to me. "Do you believe she should have told you sooner?" I didn't even blink. "She should have told me before Elena could speak." Gasp from the audience. I leaned forward, and then I said it. "I'm revising my will. Elena will no longer inherit anything from me. I wish her the best in life. But I was a father based on lies. And those lies end today." Elena stared at me. Tears formed in her eyes, but she didn't beg. She didn't protest. She whispered, "I understand." That broke me more than if she had screamed. After the show, I didn't wait for the car. I walked out the back exit, alone, under the cloudy New York sky. No cameras, no words, just silence. And then, a voice behind me. "Dad." I stopped. She stood there, coat over her dress, makeup smudged. "I know I'm not your daughter by blood," she said, "but you're still the man who raised me. If that means anything, I'm sorry." I turned to her, looked her in the eyes for the first time since the wedding. "You were the best part of my life," I said, "but I won't be a footnote in someone else's story. I deserve better than that." She nodded. I walked away. That was 6 months ago. The video still circles online, occasionally resurfaces. Linda never spoke to me again. That was her choice. I let her make it. Elena sent me a letter once. No return address. Just a quiet thank you for being a good man when the world wasn't fair. I kept it. Tucked behind the DNA results. Life goes on. But every time someone raises a toast at a wedding now, I wonder, what secrets are hiding in the champagne? And will the truth taste just as bitter when it spills?